You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. Hey there, I'm so grateful to have you tuning in with us, and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. If your day is off to a wonky start, or maybe life just feels a little unsteady right now, I would encourage you to ask yourself, how can you add more joy to your life today? What actionable step can you take right now to bring just a teeny tiny sense of refreshed energy or happiness to your current reality? And if you haven't yet, take a second to take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose, allowing the air to fill your body with a sense of renewal, and then release it out through your mouth, allowing anything that your body doesn't need to leave you. Maybe you do this a couple times. And obviously, if you're driving or doing any physical activity, please always keep your eyes open when connecting to your breath. And don't forget to breathe. The breath is so simple, yet so powerful, and it's totally free. We all have it inside of us. So for today's conversation, I'm so excited to bring Andrea Firpo onto the pod today for a conversation really surrounding transformation, liberation, and the journey of our souls. If you haven't yet, I highly recommend connecting with Andrea on Instagram at Psychic Cheerleader, as she has just some of the most uplifting and thought-provoking content. I get so excited whenever I see her posts. Definitely read her captions. She's wonderful. And we also recorded this episode right before her spring retreat in Sedona. And I believe she has another retreat coming up also in Sedona later this year too. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you connect with her, you'll definitely want to explore just ways to get to know her, work with her further. She's wonderful. And yeah, just Andrea, you are such a special soul. I immediately felt so deeply connected to her energy upon our first interaction together. And I just know that that feeling is going to be mutual for so many of you as well. And, this conversation is certainly going to wake you up, both metaphorically and literally. So let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? Andrea, welcome to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast. So excited to hold space with you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just love to start out, how are you doing right now? We're recording the end of March 2021. I know this episode, I think, is going to come out the end of May, I believe. So kind of a little bit from now, but right now, how are you?
I'm well. I would say that I'm coming out of a big learning period time in my life, just like everybody else. I really invested in my business this year. And so there were some really great learning experiences out of all of the things that I did. Some really incredible educational experiences, right? Of this working with business partners, advertising to the degree that I have, really pushing through money blocks and abundance blocks and my ability to achieve things. I've made a lot of progress this year despite, and I give myself credit, despite everything that was going on for everyone, right? Including me. I'm not saying that it was easy, but I'm very, very fortunate. When I look at my experience of the pandemic, I'm very, very fortunate. And I have so much gratitude for that. My sister was almost admitted to the ER. She got very, very sick early on. But other than that, everybody in my family and people that I know are all safe. And so I have a lot of gratitude for that. But obviously then, waves of concern and fear and panic just completely take over when the collective is feeling so much grief and loss, right? So processing that, really, really holding space for that, having incredible tools, implementing a program with other women this year that is really like it almost brings tears to my eyes to see the progress that the women that I've had the opportunity to work with this year. They fared better than they would have otherwise. And I'm just so proud of them. Right. So I'm doing good. I mean, I'm doing good, but right now I would say, like, I think like anyone else, I'm open to learning even more about what my capabilities are and what humanity's capabilities are. I'm very interested to see how this all unfolds, how that humanity as a whole, the choices that we decide to make from this point out has been really interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even with my retreat, right? I have a retreat coming up, and I anticipated this period of time. I looked in the astrology ahead, and I knew that we were going to start having a break in the energy approximately, I think it was mid-March, to be completely honest. And so I just
so
wanted
too.
to make sure that, people had an experience to look forward to, but obviously, like, everyone has their beliefs around whether or not they want to travel or whether or not they feel safe. And so we're still all learning that, right? And I think the pandemic has affected me very differently, maybe than some people, for sure. But that doesn't mean it hasn't affected me. I feel very confident with how I maneuvered through this last year, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't incredibly challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that. I think it's interesting just how we've gotten such a clear preview as to how individual a lot of our different beliefs are. Like it's really 8 billion people on one planet, all with so many different perspectives. But I definitely feel among many things, the pandemic has really just highlighted just all the different beliefs and really how different we all are and kind of how we handle things and walk through life.
Well, yes, we're individuals, but we are definitely of the same,
yes.
right?
Right.
So how we choose to move forward is, I think, really fascinating to me. I consider myself a way shower, so I'm very excited for this time. It doesn't mean that it isn't scaring me at times, and it doesn't mean I don't have some fear, but I'm also really, really encouraged to see. I'm expecting a positive outcome for us, and I keep holding that space.
Yes, the opportunity seems very positive as a collective. So it's exciting. Well, for anyone who is new to you or not super familiar with you, I know that you call yourself the psychic cheerleader, which I am obsessed with that, by the way. I love it so much.
Tell me why you're obsessed.
I think because it's so unique. I just haven't seen those two words paired together. And I love the energy between the two of them. But yeah, I would love to know, I guess, just kind of how and where did this name come from? Because it's very unique, but it's really awesome.
It comes from a number of things. First, I was a cheerleader from about eighth grade, or about age 8, I should say, not 8th grade, age 8 till my second year of college. That was my sport. And that has like a lot of memories attached to it. One of the reasons why my mom made me a cheerleader is because I was so painfully shy and hypersensitive. I'm all water signs. So I would hardly even speak to adults. So she just kept putting me on stage. And so the cheerleading was supposed to bring that out in me. And what it did is it taught me to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. And I learned that at a very early age. I mean, I won't say I won't say that I still don't have a lot of that to break through. I mean, I'm still an INFJ. I am a generator, but I'm also a hermit. So I'm always like choosing one-on-one conversations more than I would a huge group or a stage. But it's really shown me how to speak my truth. In this lifetime, I definitely was born into a very challenging environment to teach me to stand up for myself. And so there are many gifts in that cheerleading. I've also cheerleaded every person in my life. It just comes out of me. I've been a mentor and a coach my entire life. It doesn't mean that I was always paid for it, but I was always taking somebody into my life or into my home or under my wing or sharing information. And it because my life was so challenging. So many people helped me. And in that graciousness, I always felt that if I was ever able to pass on the gift, that I would do the same in return, right? So in that exchange, in that energetic exchange of being in very difficult places and having people step in to really help me, I feel very called to do the same for other people in times of distress. So, and it's probably the Pisces in me, right? I care a lot. You can tell by my introduction. So I just talked about the state of the world for a good amount of time. But my point is that I just was at my astrologer and my psychic here in Portland. And she looked at my chart for the very first time. It was when I first moved here. And she said, after looking at your chart, if I was going through hell, I would want you by my side. You are a psychic cheerleader. And when she said that, I started laughing because she said, my guides are saying cheerleader, cheerleader, cheerleader. Like it comes up in psychic readings all the time. Well, even I have a psychic in Sedona who, even before I had met her, she said, why do I keep hearing the word cheer, cheer, cheer around you? Why are you so bright and sunny? So it's obviously a gift of mine. Long story short, that's how it came together, really. I've been psychic since I was a baby, but I didn't know how to use it or that it was gifted or anything about it. I had no one to teach me. And so I just normalized a lot of the things that I knew. How about that? Or that I knew how to do.
I love that so much. Speaking of astrology, I'd love to know what your sun, moon, and rising sign are.
My sun is a Scorpio. My moon is a Pisces. And my rising is a Pisces.
Cool. You really are all water.
Soft. Yeah, I'm all soft on the outside, and then I do have a backbone, but you have to really push me. When the Scorpio comes out, then I'm really being tested. But yeah, I would say I'm mostly Pisces. I get teased a lot about that.
That's cool. I love that.
One of my life lessons is learning how to create my own boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was in a lot of experiences where I had to learn how to create healthy and safe boundaries, which is why I teach other people to do the same. I find women are really, really challenged to do that. For whatever reason, it comes a little easier with men. Not always, but women really, really, really struggle to uphold healthy boundaries for them.
It's interesting.
We want to be liked, or we were taught that our feelings weren't important and we had to take care of everybody else, or there's some sort of patterning there, right? But I love helping women with it because it's something that I've moved through myself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would love to chat a little bit more about that evolution. And I know you've been on quite the journey that has kind of brought you to your work today as an embodiment guide and working with women. I know you're also an author and a podcast host, and and you just have such a magnetic energy. I was instantly drawn to you when we first connected on Instagram, and you're definitely such a wonderful individual. But talking about boundaries and as a female, what did that evolution look like for yourself?
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, for the kindness and the generosity in your words. I really, really greatly appreciate that reflection. So thank you. I don't want to just dance around that. And I felt the same thing about you when I saw what you were creating. So it's definitely mutual when it comes to how this all began for me. I was born into a family that was incredibly conservative and was probably the antithesis of who I am now. I've spent most of my life unraveling the physical, emotional, and sexual abuse that I've experienced since childhood up until now. I kept going in and out of, therapist's office, all kinds of psychiatric, or not psychiatric, psychological work throughout my life. There was a point where I did see a psychiatrist. I do admit to that. But at a certain point, I was getting nowhere. When you meet my family and we're all in the same room, most people can't see the resemblance at all because I've worked my entire life to undo a lot of what they are or what's important to them or who they are as people. I love them. I have amazing respect for each of them and their life's path and journey here. I'm so appreciative of everything that they've taught me, but I'm not saying that it wasn't very, very challenging. So as I continued, like I said, with all those hands throughout my life, I think my greatest challenge was boundaries. I had a narcissistic mother and, she still is. And so I wasn't allowed to have boundaries. My mom kept me around like a doll because I was, really beautiful and got a lot of attention, and she loved that. And so, putting me on stage, all of that, like I said, has a mixed blessings. And I would say that as I continue to evolve through my experience, learning how to stand up for myself, certainly, and then rolling through all of that therapy, I still wasn't getting to the bottom of it. And it was through a huge life transformative process of getting an autoimmune condition that nobody else could see and that had really scary repercussions. So I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, but I was diagnosed at the point, and let me explain what Graves' disease is. Graves' disease is an autoimmune condition where your body goes from hypothyroid to hyperthyroid and back and forth, and you don't listen. And then you have an emotional disturbance, but they can't figure out exactly or pinpoint exactly why, but your body goes into a point where it starts to attack itself. The problem is that it attacks your thyroid tissue, which would be fine, except it also attacks the thyroid or the tissue behind your eye, which looks identical. And in that process, it starts to swell and it starts to press on the back of your eyes. And if gone undiagnosed, or there's like a bell curve, and if you get past a point, your eyes, first of all, bulge out of your head, but then they can't do anything about it. And you can lose your eyesight. So your eyes are permanently bulging out of your head unless you go in and have surgery and actually make larger sockets, believe it or not, for your eyes to fit in your head. So those are the people that really don't address the problem. I didn't know that that was the problem, first of all. No one could see it. I woke up one morning and my eye was a different shape and I couldn't figure out why. I didn't know what was wrong. So I spent 6 months on this journey of trying to figure out how to diagnose this, then found out I had it, and then had the option of potentially taking out my thyroid and going on medication for the rest of my life. And in that process, and I've done this multiple times in my life, I was so open and so willing to anything to heal me that it led me on this crash course of healing myself within a year. And in that process, through all of those mentorships and all of those wonderful, wonderful educators and teachers and healers, they all looked at me and said, you're in the wrong position. You're in the wrong profession. You should be doing this with other people. And for me at the time, I couldn't let go of who I was. I was an executive assistant. I'd worked hard for that for 20 years. I had this whole identity. I had this whole lifestyle. It really challenged that. And through breaking through that myself and becoming who I am now, that's now what I teach other people to do. I think that's a very long version of what you asked me, but essentially that's kind of my journey. Is I finally wanted to get to the bottom of why I was so sick. And in that process of educating myself in so many different ways, in an obsessive way almost, because I'm a Pisces, so I want to get to the bottom of things. So, I just accumulated a number of tools, and I'm like, this should not be a secret society. More people need to know about this. Like, I will share anything with you that I've learned, right? That I think is going to be supportive for you, or you don't have resistance around, or it's going to help push you through or pivot you through a place where you are emotionally triggered. Because that's the name of the game in this world, is undoing your trauma as much as possible, recognizing that it's a story that's not happening right now, getting really in touch with your inner child, in your relationships and how you are acting and reacting, the energy flow between you and the rest of the world all day long. That's the only thing you have the opportunity to have control or manage in your life. And so the more you get better at learning how to do that and understanding the dynamics of that on a physical, emotional, spiritual level, mental level, then the happier you are, especially in a crisis like right now, right? So because I had so many crises in my life, I've become a professional at crisis. I can't say that like I know everything. I certainly don't, but I am really, really good at transformative work because, again, that's Scorpio, right? But I have had to transform my life many, many times. And it just got to a point where I wanted to teach other people how to do it too. Yeah.
What a journey.
Did that answer your question at all?
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I would love to dive a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, into your very severe diagnosis and just what that was like for you in terms of going through so many different, number one, being so open to so many different healing modalities, which is amazing. But then the emotions that come with that diagnosis, on top of you are also stripping away an identity that belonged to you for 100%. So many years.
Yes, 100%. But I've done that a number of times in my life. I've been very, I look back and I think, wow, I've been very not desperate, but very open to help, to any help, or to any, being very willing to do anything to get through. So what was it like to get the autoimmune disease diagnosis? Well, I'll try to shorten the story by saying that from the moment that I woke up with the pain in my face, that wasn't overnight, but with the pain in my face, and then I guess the most, for me, it feels like maybe like a hangover is the pressure behind your eyes, and not really attributing it because I wasn't very healthy at the time. I was not taking very good care of myself. I was working 60 hours a week in tech, financial tech. I had the shiny car and the amazing home in San Francisco, and I was going out drinking on the weekends and partying, and I was in my 30s. I was living the life, right? I mean, theoretically, I was living the life. It was everything that I'd worked towards. And so I just thought, when I was hypothyroid, when I look back now, I was like, well, I was exhausted while I was raising a kid and working all these hours, right? So I attributed a lot of things to other things at first. So it was hard to pinpoint what was going on with me, other than I knew there was something wrong with my eye, but no one else could see it. It took until probably 4 months until I saw my mother, which I don't see her that often. And she looked at me and said, what's going on with your eyes, within 3 seconds of seeing her. And I said, you can see that. And she said, yes, of course I can. You're my daughter. And I said, okay, well, nobody else can see it. My esthetician couldn't see it. My husband didn't see it. I mean, no one saw it. I felt like I was crazy. So I was just like, okay, well, I keep putting eyeliner on my eye and I know there's something wrong, but I don't know exactly like what to do about it or what's causing it. And no one else sees it. So I'm not going to worry about it. So that happened. And then it was a matter of figuring out that I needed to go see an ophthalmologist, right? So I did. And that led me to the diagnosis. And he was doing one of those surgeries that day and he had to rush up for surgery. And he was an hour late to my appointment. He was a very, very busy doctor in San Francisco. And he said, pretty sure you got Graves' disease. Don't Google it. See me in 2 weeks. Go get your lab work done to confirm. So what do you think I did as soon as I walked outside of the office?
Dr.
I Googled it and I saw pictures of people's eyes that were bulging out of their head like frogs. And I started just wailing on the bus ride home. Yeah. So, I went from there to where I am now. And that was no easy process, but it was literally like, it was so on the tip of my tongue that then I literally, if I was in a conversation with you, it wasn't just about me, but I literally would have been like, so I have this going on with me. Do you know anybody that can help me with it? Of course. It went from there to, okay, I will do anything to not have this disease, because I'm 38 and I can't imagine being on medication for the rest of my life at this point. If I was 80 or 75, maybe, but no. I knew enough about naturopathy. I knew enough about the healing aspects of the body, and I just couldn't. Other people are welcome to make that decision. I couldn't. A lot of that has to do with my upbringing. My mom was a Christian Scientist, so we were hardly even allowed to go to the doctor. So it's not that I don't believe in Western medicine, because I absolutely do, but it's very trauma informed. And that's what it was. That was the origination of it, right? Mm-hmm. Is I break my arm, I go get a cast. There's no preventative part of it. So while my doctors were yelling at me to go on medication and do all the things they recommended, I chose differently. Every appointment I said, give me a little more time.
I love that. I was so curious to hear if you were working in tangent with both Western medicine or
I was, but they were really frustrated with me.
Yeah.
Because they had their own fears that they had to work through around it. They'd never had a client challenge them yet. And I was saying, hey, hold up. If that's the decision we have to make, sure, okay, but give me a little time to see if I can figure this out on my own. And so I would tell like my endocrinologist the vitamins and supplements I was taking. And he was like, can't remember what he didn't like, but he was like, I don't recommend, have you done any research around this? I was like, yes, that's all I do. And like my nutritionist, I'll never forget, I sat down with him. He's the one that he taught me a lot about what was going on in my childhood when I first was born. Mm-hmm. And the correlation between my mom's state of health by the time she'd had me, the third kid, as opposed to the first child, and just how deficient I was even my immune system when I was born. I've overcome so much in my life. Like, we're only the tip of the iceberg. My Graves' disease showed up in an eye that had a lazy eye in anyway. I have scoliosis. I have a completely straight neck from a gymnastics injury from competitive cheerleading, with 3 bone spurs that are starting to fuse and have been since I was 28. I have all of these things that I've had to overcome in my life. I've had to push through really extenuating circumstances, and a lot of times alone.
As humans, we want to naturally grow and to experience change. However, it's the fear of taking conscious action on these wants that keeps us stuck, keeping us unconsciously attached to an imbalanced life, attached to the habits and comfort that pain, suffering, fear, resentment, and limitations of our current realities provide to us. Whereas in reality, our true home, our real home, resides in a world of balance, a world we are aware of, yet also free of anything that no longer serves us. For balance is the key to life. Balance is the aim of all living creatures. We are all alive and living right now in this moment. Our earth is also alive. Our beautiful earth is mostly made up of water, and we too, as human beings, are made up primarily of water. Wherever there is water, there is life. And just as water must be kept in balance here on earth, we as human beings must also be kept in balance. After much discovery and witness to life's experiences, I created Ambu, a modern holistic wellness company. Ambu is a company designed to truly realign you on a mind, body, and soul level. Through my holistic wellness practice, my intention is to guide you to a more rightful and truthful way of living. A simple guide that complements and enhances where you are right now. Real change happens from within and is the key to not only transforming yourself, but your experience of the world around you. Together, I will work with you to uncover your why, adopt sustainable practices for long-lasting lifestyles, and expand to your fullest potential. Our lives, and especially the world of health and wellness, has gotten far too complicated over the years. Through my work with Ambu, I strip it all back to the beginning of time, back to the basics, in order to bring you full circle, not to a new self, but back to the essence of yourself, your one and only authentic self. Ambu offers a variety of programs and resources, each built with intention to target how unique we all truly are. All in all, a life well lived is a life that you are able to enjoy. It's time to rediscover your inner calling, your healthiest and brightest you that's been waiting inside of you for all this time. It's time to dust him or her off, and I'd love for Ambu to serve as your guide and accountability partner in this journey. So let's guide you back home to a life in balance through our modern holistic approach to wellness. To learn more, visit us at ambuwellness.com or connect with us on Instagram at ambuwellness, and let's transform together.
I had my daughter as a single mother. I've been alone through very, very difficult times, a lot of times in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which has made you so resilient.
So strong. It's made me really resilient. Yeah. And really compassionate towards other people's journey. Mm-hmm. Right. Because that loyalty in me, right? Also, being the signs that I am, I have a tremendous amount of loyalty as a Scorpio. And I'm the person that will stick next to you, right? No matter what you're going through. Unless, of course, it's not healthy for me. But I will always be here for you. Doesn't matter if I knew you 20 years ago or, 5. But I will always, and same thing with my clients, right? I call on my clients pretty regularly. And I'm like, I know we're not working together, but how are you? Because my goal is to not make people dependent upon me whatsoever. I'm different than a therapist. I want to give you the tools so that you can help yourself. It's a partnership, but that doesn't mean that we're done. I'm always here for you and I always care about you. So
I love that. Puts such a just humane way of working with someone as well, aside from the dollar amount and things like that, obviously there's always going to be an energy exchange, but I love that so much. Your journey is so interesting to me on so many different levels, but it's actually quite similar to my husband's that I didn't really understand at first, but we won't make this about me because I know a lot of my listeners have heard this story.
Sure, yeah.
They've heard this story before, but just kind of real quick because it's very similar in that he was definitely born with some underlying immune issues and has always had kind of a wonky immune system. He's gone through all different injuries. He was a professional athlete, everything like that. He also had to deal with losing his brother at a very young age, which then spurred into depression and just a big battle with mental health and things like that. However, in his early 30s, about, I think it'll be 3 years ago this year, in September, he was suddenly diagnosed with a severe autoimmune disease. And his was severe aplastic anemia, where your bone marrow is just not reproducing itself. So similar to leukemia, except that it's not that there's bad guys in there. It's just that it's not reproducing.
Right.
Yep, on top of a couple other things going on. They really kind of just were like, we're going to call it this, but if that's
we're not totally sure. Right.
Exactly. But then through that whole process together, I was very much, this just, it isn't right. There has to be another way. And then I went into that full research mode, and it's really what has propelled me into a lot of the work that I do now currently. But for him, it was just so, by chance, all of his doctors suddenly, after about a year and a half, decided to just pull him off of all of his medications. And it was just such a gift, because we were then suddenly given this blank slate that we could kind of do whatever we wanted, because there was no risk of a certain supplement that wasn't, there was no science behind how it would react with the medicine and everything like that. But just as you were talking, I was like, wow, just such a connection with your journey and what he went through. And then especially that it did flare itself in that like early 30s time frame is also kind of interesting. So
it was 38 for me. It wasn't super early, but it was for me too early. I wasn't ready to give up.
Exactly.
And that's what I looked at it like. I was still ready to fight, and I was still willing to learn, and I was willing to be wrong, but I was also willing to fight. And I mean, I am a fighter. So of course my whole family's very scrappy. I will say that. So I did get that. That was a beautiful gift from them.
Absolutely. And you need that within yourself to really,
I became an advocate for my health. And, there were so many people. I mean, as you were telling me that story, I was remembering my girlfriend at the time who looked at me and said, this was kind of the start of the unraveling process. She said, hey, Andrea, because she was a nurse. She said, I want you to know this because I know you so well. You're killing yourself. And she kept saying that until I started to break down and cry. So that was probably if I have to attribute it, because you're like, how did you do that? That was the start of the unraveling, right? I was crying differently than crying about my life or how I couldn't keep up with my life. I was crying because now I didn't know what to do. And I realized I was contributing to it. And so then I was on a path to determine how I was contributing to my issues. Yeah. And I wanted the truth. I mean, I really wanted the truth, and I was willing to get that and be receptive to it and take responsibility for it for the first time in my life. I stopped becoming the victim of everything that happened to me, and I really stepped into, I mean, I won't say I was always living like that, but there were moments, 100%. And I really stepped into, okay, this is all serving me. How can this serve? How is this serving me? What am I learning out of this? It was a huge, huge shift. I mean, I've had several awakenings in my life, but it was that was big. Yeah. I mean, it was so many synchronistic events. I got a psychic reading, and there were 4 students in the room, and they did a rose reading, and they started talking about how I was so far off my life path that my rose was dying. And I was like sobbing on them. I mean, like so many people came out and was like, stop, the direction you're headed, just don't even go that way. Just anything but that way would be a good way. So yeah. And those are all pre-negotiated. We all have exit moments throughout our lives. We just choose whether or not we're going to keep going as a soul, right? And keep evolving. And I've had plenty of those times in my life. Yeah, where I keep going, right? So I love helping other people keep going.
Yeah. So important. In what way do you feel that like all of these situations and experiences and even being so far off of your life path were almost completely necessary and like divinely synchronistic for you to experience in this lifetime?
Well, I think when you come in, however you're evolved, right? Whatever part of your karmic cycle you're in, or whatever you've agreed to, whatever as a soul that you've agreed to when you walk into this life. Like, I certainly agreed to learn a lot because I was not born into the situation that I needed, that was served me well as an adult, right? So I feel like all of that was necessary for me to grow into who I am today, because it gives me so much awareness and so much compassion for humanity at large, for their suffering, because I have suffered too. So if that's what I needed to do in order to help people through their challenges and overcome their challenges, then awesome. I guess my point is do I think it was predestined that my life turned out this way? I mean, not necessarily have free will, but yeah, there were certain things that I definitely agreed to in this lifetime so that, yeah, I could overcome them. And in doing that, other people are benefiting from it. It doesn't matter if I'm a coach, but even in conversation, it seems to benefit other people. So I just keep sharing it. How about that?
Yeah. And just to resonate with others on such a profoundly deep level as well is truly unique.
It is. I mean, I think because I've been through so much, while my journey has not been yours at all, there are moments in your journey that I've probably come across, right?
Yeah.
And so I apply to a lot of women's experiences. And I think that not everyone has had a cheerleader in their life, right? So that's why I try to be a cheerleader to others, because I know what it's like to be on your own and to not have anybody on your side. So, yeah. That's where I am with it. I mean, was it necessary? Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Did I really have to put myself through all of those situations? I guess I did.
Yeah. And with that, you can create just a really safe container, I feel like, for people understanding where you've been and just showing the power of being able to really move through and transform any situation that life gives you, because it's really scary. I mean, there's a whole lot of different emotions that come with all the different things that life throws at us. But one of the things that also just really sticks out to me about you and your work, and something that you mentioned earlier, is how you never want someone to rely on you, and that you really encourage others to become that own healer for themselves. And that's what makes you different. And I would love to know just kind of that why, as to why empowering others in this way is so important to you.
Well, back to that way shower, right? I'm in the first wave of healers that came through, that were here to clear the path, so to speak, right? I love teaching people that the power is within them. I can absolutely turn Reiki on and give them a Reiki healing, an energy healing, and they don't have to do much except believe that it's true and that it's working and be open and receptive to it. And that will help them. But the more that they believe it, or the more that they practice something on themselves, the less resistance, the the most amazing shifts happen. So I can only do so much, right? My therapist could only do so much. They couldn't take me out of the environment that I was living in or that I kept setting myself up for or that I kept choosing. They could only do so much. I was more powerful at a certain point when I started to take my own responsibility for change, right? So I try to inspire and encourage other people. That doesn't mean that like everybody has that same reaction, right? Everybody is their own process, but I encourage other people to really recognize that the power is within them to make the most absolute change in their lives. And once they recognize that they truly are in control and that they can be as powerful as I am, you know, that their external locus of control isn't outside of them to fix their problems all the time. It puts you in a very disempowering place if like you're like, well, I'm just going to keep, I shouldn't throw my sister out on the bus, but I'm under the bus, but I'm just going to keep, you know, working myself to the grindstone. And then like when my neck and my shoulder, need help, I'm just going to get a massage. Like that's okay. But what if you just had more breaks throughout the day or were more aware and awareness of self-love and not pushing yourself that hard? Can I teach that to you? Can I show you some tools? Can we implement change in your life so that your life doesn't have to be that difficult and you can see how mean you are? Can we get to the root of why you're so mean? Can we get to the pattern? Can we get to the belief? Can I show you all these things? And then after that, you decide, right, how much you're going to practice this or how much you want to really change. But I'm at least giving you the opportunity and the empowerment to see that you can, and to not have to just show up at the massage therapist and keep putting a Band-Aid on the situation, right? I want to get to the root of people's issues with them and then give them the opportunity to choose whether or not they really want to be suffering. I keep calling it suffering, but you know, there's no reason really to hold on to pain in your life. And I'm really big at teaching other people to let go of pain. I've had a lot of pain in my life. So you could say, yeah, when you said that safe vessel, I am releasing stuff out of my space all day long so that I can be a safe vessel for other people, because there just isn't a lot of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to understand that your current situation doesn't have to be your final destination.
No, not even close, but people do give up.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that there's kind of a turning point in life. I would say it's usually around 50.
Mm-hmm.
People either choose that they have to accept life the way that it is and that it just is that way, or they choose a life altering circumstance sometimes can shift them in their perspective, but choosing to really take responsibility for what is going on with you, I think is all of our path here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as we continue to awaken, as we continue to expand our consciousness, recognizing how much power we do have, that's my goal, is showing other people multitudes of ways of how empowered they truly are and how they make their own circumstances.
Yeah. As a wellness coach and just someone who absolutely, I just love helping people. Boundaries, we spoke about boundaries earlier. Boundaries kind of comes on so many different levels in life, but for you with the work you do with your clients, so that way, and I'd love to know just kind of what boundaries you set up for yourself so that you're not then taking in that energy from your clients, and how you kind of now protect yourself for your own betterment with this work.
Well, that is a practice in itself. And I think at one point you and I talked about being a wounded healer. I think there are a lot of people who get into therapy or get into coaching because they're trying to solve themselves, right? The wounding with themselves. And I certainly did at the beginning, which is why I had a lot of resistance around coaching right away. So I was only giving Reiki sessions to my friends and my family and to people close to me for a number of years, only because, and I was still working as an executive assistant, only because I wanted to make sure that I had processed my own trauma so that I wasn't projecting my own trauma out on other people. And while, again, coming back to that 100%, I'm not Buddha by any means. I still have, days where I'm processing stuff, but I'm so much better at processing. So, and it's quick for me now. I mean, it's really, really quick. So, knowing, so how do I protect myself? From energetic tools, right? I obviously have I have symbols through Reiki that protect my space. I have tools that I've learned through clairvoyant training that drops energy out of my space. I neutralize my space all the time. I neutralize my office with Palo Santo probably 5 times a day. If I have negative thoughts, I'm usually like, have a conversation with my inner child. I mean, I just have so many different things in place now. I'm having conversations with my guides. I'm like, hey, and through a meditation, this is what I'm envisioning, clear the energy around it. I just have so many other tools now to, release. And I'm doing it all the time because it makes such a significant difference. That's why people love my energy, is because I take responsibility for my energy. And so if I can teach other people how to take responsibility for their energy, they can show up just like me. I didn't always vibrate at this rate. I didn't always sound like this. I wasn't always a bubbly, happy, like most people are like, oh my God, like how, do you have anything bad in your life? And I'm like, yes, of course I do. But
people always are like, why are you so happy?
I'm not crying in a bathtub anymore because I have so much better strategy around taking good care of myself all day and taking good care of the people around me. And so I guess, how do I protect myself? I just, I have I have a lot of clarity around what is good for me and what is not good for me. There, getting down to brass tacks at this point in my life, I have a lot of clarity around what is good for me and what is not good for me than I did at 35 or 30. It just keeps getting better,
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep having more awareness and more practice at erasing that boundary and like taking a step forward or taking a step back, right? Whatever, I keep reassessing. And through application and practice, I know energetically as well as emotionally and physically what is good for me and what is not.
It's so interesting too when we then pull it back to, also you mentioned at the beginning, for human design, you're a generator, and you're definitely embodying true just the evolution of a generator, and where one would want to become in that scale of understanding.
I don't know enough about it. I've just been told that I am. That's so funny. Is that a typical generator's role?
Yeah. So really with the generator, it's getting very clear on basically when we're choosing to do something, it should be a hell yes, and anything else should be a hell no. So just with you being able to have such a clear view as to what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and then to be so comfortable then making that choice is really that kind of naturalness of what a generator in alignment should look like.
Good. Well, at least I got that down. I mean, clairsentience and claircognizance really works well for me there. I'm very, very hypersensitive, so I can feel the energy of the room. I can feel the energy of you. I can easily take it on. So learning energetic tools was like it was a life changer. So if I meet an empath or if I work with somebody who's clairsentient dominant, I'm like, okay, this is a game changer. Just trust me. If you've never tried this, please try these tools, right? So, yes, I would say that those two intuitive gifts have really informed that behavior more than anything. Recognizing that I am and then trusting it, right? Trusting that I have the intuition to know right from wrong and just trusting that. I mean, half of your intuitive gifts is learning how to trust that you're actually seeing, hearing, feeling, or knowing what you know, right? So,
Absolutely. I
mm-hmm.
love that. What are some, so we've talked kind of with some of the different Claire gifts and things. We've spoken about Reiki. I would love to know some of the other healing modalities that either you've worked with on yourself or that you kind of are normally your go-tos with your clients.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that because I know we kind of are looping. Um, so I actually, through the process of healing myself, which by the way, I did in a year with the Graves' disease,
Wow.
I accumulated tools and gifts through all kinds of training. I worked with a trauma psychologist for 6 months. I did the Landmark Forum all the way through the advanced series. I went through Reiki 1 through Reiki Master Teacher within a year. I also at the same time was studying the shamanic wheel. I mean, I literally was like, can you help me? Okay, cool. Can you help me? Okay, cool. I was in so much learning in that 1 year. And if I'm honest, at the time it was to save me, and not only to save me, but also to save my relationship too at the time. So a lot of things were going on, similar to how you were in hyperdrive trying to help your husband. I went into hyperdrive because of what was going on in my marriage too. So there were a lot of things that I accumulated, and I studied energetic work. I studied psychology. I studied a bunch of things all at once because I wanted to, save myself and save my marriage. Right. So, I use all of those. What are my go-tos? I would say that more than anything, my clairs inform me of a lot of information, right? When I work with somebody, I do half talk therapy and half energetic work. And through the first, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes, however long it takes us to talk about what is going on, if I'm just meeting with you in an individual session, I receive so much information about you. I don't always share everything that I'm receiving, but you're also telling me a lot. And I just kind of make a note of what I'm receiving as well as what I also know to be true, what I know to be truth with you. As you tell me more about a situation, I'm like, no, that's not true. Or, like I'm like, this is actually the truth of that. Or, oh, I can see how that's happening. I just start to understand the patterns of you and how you frame yourself. How do you frame your life? Why things are happening in your life. I look at all of the different things and try to get to the bottom of it. And then we work for the next half, or more than half usually, on teaching you certain tools that you can implement to help clear that, right? Because like a massage therapist, I can do some work with you there, which I do, but then you're going to have the biggest transformative experience if I can also teach you some things to implement once you leave me, because your energy is still running. I run your energy. I clear all your aura, your layers of your aura. I pull things out of it. I bring more energy into your auric field. I cut cords. We do relationship healings. We do, stuff in your past, your karmic lines, your ancestral lines. I do a lot of energy work with you, but I also want to teach you things that are useful to you that come up, right? So my guide might say, all of a sudden I'll get pettigrain in my head. And it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure that pettigrain is for this, but I'll look it up in the book. And I also give you several things. And I'm like, do you like essential oils? And you're like, oh yeah, I love essential oils. I'm like, okay, great. We're going to get you some pettigrain. So I also, I incorporate the information that I've learned but I'm also, I guess, trying to teach you some information so that you have a game plan or strategy for where you are so that you really can shift. So whether that's shamanic journeying with you through meditation, or whether that's clairvoyant tools, because that seems you're very excited about that, you want to know more about your intuition or your psychic gifts, or whether that's essential oils with you because that seems like a natural pathway, or what if you want to sit and talk about your attachment style. I know that you like psychology and you're very mentally based, so however I can get in with you, I'm going to teach you in a way so that you understand it. And then I'm going to give you tools that reinforce that so that you can be the most successful when you walk away. I want to empower you as you walk away. Now, everybody has their own experience of that, but I've done the best that I can with the knowledge that I have to help set you up in a way that hopefully empowers you to choose differently, right?
Yeah, what a beautiful relationship to hold and just container for your clients. I love that
Thank
so
you.
much. Where can people find you to connect further or possibly even work with you?
They can find me on social media, primarily on Instagram as Psychic Cheerleader, how you found me. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm on YouTube as well. I'm on LinkedIn as well, mostly just video. But you can find me at my website, which is Andrea Firpo, my first and last name.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Andrea, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I so appreciate you opening up and just diving deep with us here today. But before we close out, I love to end all my episodes with some loving your own soul questions, which are just some kind of on the spot fun questions so we can get to know you a little bit more. First question, what color do you feel resonates the most with your soul?
Yellow.
Cool. I feel that for some reason. Do you have a favorite animal or spirit animal?
I have several that I work with. I love the giraffe. I love the crow. I work with a fox quite often and an owl. They are my spirit guides or my spirit animals that have been assigned to me. So yes, I work with a lot of different guides. I was assigned through clairvoyant training as well, a master surgeon and a psychic healer. So I work with them. I work with Ascended Master Jesus Christ. I work with the Palladian light emissaries. I definitely work with certain guides as well as my own spirit team when I work with you, right?
Love that. If you were a flower, what type of flower do you think you would be?
Good question. Probably a rose.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say a rose.
I love roses. Do you have a favorite quote or mantra or just even anything that comes to mind?
I do, but we're not in my office. I think it's funny because it's not memorized. It's by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's essentially, you can always know, I feel like walking upstairs. You can always know somebody who's overcome trauma because they are the first people to be willing to share their experience.
I love that.
I know I'm butchering it. But it's like way more eloquent than that. But that's essentially, that's the first thing that comes to mind. First affirmation. God, I use them all the time. Right now, I keep saying it's happening.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, here's one. You can do hard things. The fear is worse than the outcome.
So true.
I remind myself of that quite often.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite age thus far in your life?
Now.
Cool.
Now it's just starting to get amazing, right? Yeah, it's getting so much easier. I know that sounds crazy in the middle of a pandemic, but my life has become so much easier the older that I've gotten.
Cool. Love that. Final question that I ask all of my guests. When did your exploration to diving deeper into your own soul first begin? And how has it evolved since then?
Well, I think that's been the whole kind of heart and soul of what we've talked about today. But I would say that first journey was probably at 16, if I'm completely honest, recognizing that I needed to choose differently than what my family was choosing. Happened maybe earlier than that at 12, but 16, I made a conscious decision to leave my family and to make a plan to figure it out on my own. And I feel like that was a really necessary turn in my life. I mean, I would say that the Graves' disease certainly was a huge pivotal time too, at getting in touch with my soul, really getting in touch with my soul. But I'd say 16 is probably really when it first happened, when I made a conscious decision to really be a different person than what I was taught to be. Yeah. Cool. Did that answer your question?
It did. Absolutely. Okay. It's always funny, this question. I love asking it at the end, but lately it's really just been a summary of our entire conversation. So
that's good. It's affirming for you. You're getting questions answered. Yeah,
definitely. Well, Andrea, again, thank you so much for having this conversation here today. This was just so enlightening for me personally, and I know it's definitely going to touch a lot of our guests as well.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I hope that it was useful. I hope I made sense at certain points. And that, yes, that I'm happy to share. And I really am super appreciative of you having me share with your listeners. So thank you for that opportunity.
Oh. What a soulful conversation. I'm truly so grateful for Andrea for showing up with us here today, but also just in her everyday work that she does to truly inspire and empower so many of us. It's so wonderful. Definitely be sure to go check her out. Again, the Psychic Cheerleader. And as always, thank you again for tuning in and being a part of this community. I look forward to continuing the journey with you again soon.